Hello! Hello everybody. So I have a dinner that I'm going to in a little bit, hence the makeup. And I just decided to make a clay bowl. Actually, I want to make some like clay dishes. Oh wait, fuck. To get Ziggy her pill. Anyway, so yeah, she got 12 teeth out, that poor little angel. So we're on a lot of medication. Go potty. Good girl. I want to make a couple of dishes for my nightstand to like catch random jewelry and all that. So I mentioned the other day that I started taking a pottery class. I'm obsessed. It's so cool. It's so good. I honestly love that when you're on the wheel, it takes all of your concentration and you can't think about anything else except for what you're doing. It's perfect for people that have a tendency to overthink. So that pottery class is taught on the wheel. I don't have a wheel at home, so we're just going to hand make some ceramic, and I'm really excited actually. I've done this, to be fair, once before. I had my friends come over and we just kind of like played around with it. Well, ceramics in general are much harder than I thought they were gonna be. So we are going to work through this together. Full disclosure, I'm not a ceramics teacher. This is probably gonna have some things where you're like, is that right? Might not be. But we're gonna figure it out together. Well, after the fact for you. Me and the camera are gonna figure it out together. Boring intro thing to say, but if you haven't hit the subscribe button, it's right there. I've been really focusing on time management and being intentional with what time I do have and making sure that I spend it well, whatever that looks like. I've been pretty proud of myself. I've been putting in a lot of work, and I think it's okay to be proud of yourself. So I am. Now I'm gonna find my dog. Without further ado, let's go make some ceramics. Welcome to the audio overlay. Take a sip of my tea before we start this. I'm using some DOS air dry clay. I think it's DOS, D-A-S. If that's not how you pronounce it, excusez-moi. I have them in the color terracotta and white. I also found these tools off of Amazon, but you can get them at, I'd imagine, most of your art stores. Honestly, couldn't have done it without them. Big props. Also big props to my bowl of water. Now I'm just starting to work with the clay, trying to get all the air bubbles out, trying to make sure that it's together really well. That's what I'm doing here, just kind of picking apart the clay and seeing how much I want to work with. So I don't have a wooden rolling pin, but I'm just making do. I have this little glass vase that I'm going to be using as my rolling pin. Honestly, it worked really well as long as your clay isn't wet. If your clay is wet, it's going to slip and slide right out of there. I've decided to use a small coffee mug and a small candle as cutouts. You don't have to do this, it just made making my circles easier. Although I will say, with this coffee mug cutout, I decided that I wanted a little bit more of an organic shape, so I decided to cut some of the edges off. Now once I had the shape that I wanted, I went ahead and put it on the bottom of the coffee mug, sort of working as a mold, so that way the clay can dry in the shape that I want. I went ahead and started to work out the second piece of clay, make my cut around the candle, and I wanted this one to be really delicate, really simple. Probably going to use it for rings. And when I tell you it took me like 5 tries to get it into this candle, I wish I was joking, but we finally got it in there. Just being super delicate. Now the last piece I wanted to make for this little trio, I used the terracotta clay, and I wanted to make just a base dish. I really liked the idea I had with a more organic shape, so I decided not to do something square or rectangular and to just make a cutout of a random shape that I honestly probably should have put a little more thought into, but hey, that's okay. we're here to learn. So yeah, I made this shape. It looks kind of like a heart. That was totally accidental. So now I'm just rolling out what is going to be the border and the sides of this dish. Now all I'm doing is making a cross stitch pattern on both the border piece and the base piece so that they'll stick together. It's important to make sure that you're doing this on both of the edges that are going to be touching. So then it's pretty simple. Get your fingertip wet, get those cross stitch pieces wet. It's kind of crazy how well they stick together after that. Then all I really did was make sure that the base and the border were really well connected and were sticking well. So I just was applying pressure on both sides, the outside and the inside, to make sure that I got all the cracks out, all the air bubbles out. The close-ups of me touching this clay is giving sexual. Next, really slowly trying to get that piece off of the wood. I will also take this time to say that you should be working on a wooden surface or a canvas surface. I believe those are the two that are the best non-stick surfaces to work with clay. Once I flipped the base piece over, I just started repeating my process, and I decided to reverse it and push the middle part down so that the bottom became the base. I was just trying to make sure that there weren't going to be any cracks. I then took a sponge because the piece looked a little bit wet, so I wanted to soak up some of that water. And then I just finished working that border out and making a good little base dish. Then, once I was done with the base piece, I set all of my pieces together and I let them dry for about 24 to 48 hours. Came back to check my pieces on Sunday, and I was happy to report that they were fully dry, so I got to take them off of their molds and honestly just check them out and put them together. I wasn't super pleased with my small organic dish, but that's okay. That's why we made two. You can see me questioning it while I spin it. So I recorded the first half of this before I had my pottery class. I don't know what kind of clay this is, but it is not air dry clay. I'm taking what I'm about to make in to be fired. I wish I knew what kind of clay this was so I could tell you. So I'm just kind of repeating the process again, but I will say I felt like I knew way more this time around and I was better prepared. Getting those air bubbles out like a pro. You're just gonna take whatever little pointy stick you can find, whether it's like something you have like I do, a fork, a knife, whatever you have just on hand. I honestly forget what that tool is called. I think it's called a dip. Maybe not. I don't remember. I'm so sorry, guys. So you're using this tool just to make sure that you get all of the air bubbles, and they'll be pretty easy to see. Next piece of the puzzle is measuring out how big I wanted to make this mug. Spoiler alert, I am making a coffee mug. When you fire pieces of pottery, they shrink by a decent amount. So I was trying to make it pretty tall, and I only had so much clay to work with, so I couldn't make it too wide, unfortunately. So once I figured out my measurements, I went ahead and cut through the clay. You're gonna go ahead and cut the edges off in a corner. Hello, no you're not. You're gonna go ahead and cut the edges off at an angle so that those two sides can then stick together and create that cylindrical shape. After that, go ahead and score both sides, get them wet, and then you're gonna slowly, really slowly, kind of, not fold, but fold over in that circular, cylindrical fashion and connect the two sides together. So once you've connected both the sides together, take the back of your fingernail and work the side that is on top over fully to the other side. Almost like you're pushing it together and making it so there's not a harsh line anymore. My piece ended up being a little bit taller than I wanted, so I went ahead and cut some off the top. Then I found a piece of scrap clay that I thought would make a good handle, so I put that to the side, and then I started working on my base. You can really go as slowly as you want, take as long as you want, and make it a really like almost meditative process. So then I went ahead and scored both pieces and got them a little bit wet. Then once you get the base connected to the sides, you're gonna go ahead and take your tool again. Oh God, I really should have learned the name of it. And you're gonna start working it from the base upward. So you're almost flipping that clay into the sides and then pushing it together. I'm gonna lie, it's not that hard. As long as you don't leave too much excess clay on the sides, you should be good to go. So then you're connected. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm rolling out the handle because I wanted to make it rounder rather than flat. Then once you decide where you want the handle to go ahead and outline the areas where the handle will connect. Then you're gonna score both pieces again. Very gently touch the handles to the spots that you have kind of carved out for them to go. I stick this tool back in there because I want to make sure that there's enough pressure on the other side of that wall as well. I went ahead and rolled out really small thin pieces of clay to go around the edges of the handle, and then you start to just work that out. My teacher actually said something really accurate and really cool in my class, is that especially with hand building pottery, you can really go as slowly as you want, take as long as you want, and make it a really like almost meditative process. So then I just got my fingertips a little bit wet to smooth out those edges. Last thing I really wanted to do was pinch the top of the cup together a little bit more to make it just a little bit thinner. After that, I just went back over my cup, made sure everything was flat and smooth, and truly the last piece for me was sticking a dry sponge under my handle to make sure that it held its form. I'm pretty proud. Thank you everybody for watching. We got through it together. Whether you're watching this when it comes out on Monday or if you're watching this later on in the week, I hope you have or have had a beautiful week. Love you. I will see everybody right here next week.